welcome back to the Sprinklr Coffee Club. I'm Marsha Kirkpatrick, your host here at the Sprinklr Coffee Club. Thank you so much for joining us today. I love days when we do Coffee Club, and I am so excited that you have decided to join us today. We are going to have a conversation with one of the most influential, well-informed, thoughtful, and charming people in the world, full stop, about the subject of customer care, which is one of the most important topics in business these days. I am super pleased to welcome back to the Sprinklr Coffee Club my friend, Marsha Collier. Marsha, hello.
Marshall, you know, every time you say your name, I think you're saying my name. So it's like Marsha and Marshall.
Likewise, but we are different people with different experiences, and that will be to everyone's benefit today, wherein we will discuss a variety of different topics related to customer experience and customer care, especially informed by one of your many projects. So many people in the audience will know you as a prolific author. Many will know you as a radio and podcast host, and many will also know you. I wonder which of these audiences is largest. I know that for me, my favorite of your projects is the CustServe tweet chat, the customer service tweet chat that you do every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock Pacific time. And you have been doing it now for...
Thank you for the plug.
You bet. It's so well done. It's just excellent. Will you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, when I first started, and we're talking about customer experience and customer service here, I first started in 2010. I didn't start the chat till December. I wanted to write a book. It was my theory that customers needed to be reached where they are. And I did a presentation at Portland State University called Fish Where the Fish Are, because your customer is online. And very few brands were doing customer service online. I mean, you remember there was the big Comcast. There was Frank and Comcast, and nobody else was really doing anything. And so I wrote a book about why they should come online, with examples of things that brands had done in the past that were difficult. But my real inspiration for this was when I worked for the Miami Herald. When I worked for the Los Angeles Daily News, there was a gentleman called Peter Glenn. He was a customer service expert. He wrote the book, It's Not My Department. You can still find it on Amazon. He also has videos, which you can still see. Peter, unfortunately, has passed away, but he was the first person who would walk in, and he was hired by Saks Fifth Avenue at the time. And he would walk in because they were opening a new store, and he would be a customer. And it wasn't just a secret shopper thing, because when he got ignored in a store, you believe me, they heard about it loudly. There was just no question. His goal was, because his book title was It's Not My Department, that was his thing. It's everybody's department. When you're dealing with customers, everybody you deal with is relating to your customer. So that's why I started the chat, December 2010, because I wrote the book and I wanted to feel out people and see how it worked out. I tested my theories, and that's what I do every week. I know it looks like a open discussion, but when I craft the questions, it's really to test out theories and questions I have about current practices to see how they work. So if you ever look at CustServe chat, you'll notice that.
Wow. Well, it's just amazing. We were discussing before the show how relevant and interesting the questions continue to be, even after 10 years of a weekly tweet chat. Now, some folks may not have attended a tweet chat before who are here, but you and a co-host typically ask how many questions? 10 questions?
Ours is 10 questions because we kind of like it rapid fire. There's no way that one person can do this. We like to stay themed to each one, so we have a topic for the show. We try not to make the topic too general. I craft 10 questions, which I alternate in tweeting with somebody else. And that happens every 5 minutes. We joke, people have called it the fastest hour in Twitter because it goes so quickly. The rapid fire questions and the group, I mean, sometimes we've had close to 60 people in the chat. And let me tell you, in case you haven't been in a Twitter chat, the way you do this is use a program like Tweetchat. Make a search column for the hashtag you want to follow. In our case, it's hashtag custserve, and it'll make a column. Thereby, every time you tweet to the group, you include the hashtag custserve, and it will appear in that single column so everybody will see it. Sometimes the answers come flying by so quickly that I can't possibly answer every one of them. I try to comment, but it's difficult because such smart people. And we also get consumers. And to me, that's where I find some of the real nuggets because they see it's about customer service. And I try not to. There are other organizations that cater to call centers and cater to the strict business end. But we want to know what the customer thinks and how, if you noticed in our questions, how the customer reacts to things that you do. You know, what kind of information are they looking for, et cetera. So great way to get customer research.
That's amazing. Well, I know I have done just a handful of tweet chats that my team and I have led kind of on again, off again with maybe 20, 25 participants, maybe a few more, but it is an adrenaline rush. And I can only imagine how exhilarating it must be for you to host that.
I love it when we get consumers from Australia or people, you know, all the tech customer service agents in India. Do you believe we get maybe at least 3 or 4 almost every week? And they want to add in and they come in to learn. So it's not only customers, it's agents, it's worldwide, and it's great because we learn as much as we share.
Oh, that's fantastic. I bet you have just learned a ton and the rest of us get to benefit from that. You've built a remarkable career in large part from all those things that you have learned through all your different projects. I wonder, I want to get into some of the specific questions that you've been discussing recently, but prior to that, I wonder when you reflect on this almost 10-year tweet chat that you've been doing now, what are a few of your favorite big picture lessons you've learned?
Well, I think the importance of understanding your customer. I think that's the number one thing that's come through. The importance of being honest with your customer. The importance of they will see through you if you feed them a line of malarkey. Yeah, I like that. Malarkey, good word. I was going to say something else, but really, because you can't fool your customer. And as far as policies are very important to companies and the way you do business. You don't go and tell your customer, it's our policy, because they don't care. All they care about is a happy transaction.
Yeah, policies was the topic of your most recent tweet chat, I believe, discussing some of the best practices for documenting customer service policies and when to be flexible and a wide variety of different questions like that. How did that conversation go?
It went really well. And another thing that we did say also in that conversation, and I've noticed a really bad negative trend in e-commerce websites. I'm not seeing, when I see the contact page, I'm not seeing an email address. I'm seeing a contact form. And people are not always sure that that contact form gets somewhere. There needs to be a phone number, at least tell the people what city you're in. This also came up. I'm not seeing an FAQ. So many companies, I don't know where they're shipping from. Now, maybe those companies are deliberately hiding it, but if I wanted, they're not getting my business. You have to let the customer know who you are, what you stand for, and have an about us. And that's something we talked about. You have to have the about us. People need to know who you are. If you're a strange business and you expect people to send you money, you need to let them know. It's that virtual handshake. Hi, how are you? This is us. This is our goal. What can we do for you?
That's wonderful. I can only imagine the impact that could have, not to be cold and calculating, but on website conversion rates to introduce yourself and have an about us page.
I've been to in the last few days. It's because I've tried deliberately to shop with small businesses and look at small business or even foreign businesses, and I'm finding this lack of information. You should know where something is being shipped from. If you're making a decision whether you want to pay for expedited shipping, if they're shipping down the block for you from you, how annoyed are you going to be if you've just paid for priority shipping or overnight shipping when you know it would have gotten there anyway? It's, you need to inform the customer and be their partner, especially in these days of COVID.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, that's very interesting. Uh, Perhaps even more. I was surprised how interesting that conversation ended up being, to be honest, about documentation of customer service policies. But it ended up being a really interesting conversation. The week prior, was something that I knew was going to capture my interest, and I wonder if you could synthesize some of that discussion and some of the things you've learned on the topic in general across your career. And that was about. It seemed to be a conversation about outside in learning regarding opportunities to improve your business, whether that's listening to your customers or social listening or secret shopper type programs. But
Also important, also important. And via social media, you can get secret clues. You may not, your sentiment needs to be something you're tracking. You need to have some, maybe Sprinklr, you need to be tracking and get this information because your customer is changing by the minute, their needs and wants. And let's face it, how long have we been stuck in the house? Right? What is 100 and some odd days? And now they're saying it may run through next year. So our needs, people have stopped making bread. Have you noticed that? Everybody was making bread at home in the beginning. Now the sourdough starter is not as busy as it used to be. Now everybody's losing weight. We used to joke about the COVID-19 was the 19 pounds you'd put on. Now, not so much. Everybody's losing weight. So you see, as the culture of the world changes, so does the mood of your customer. And that's where their needs and wants become so important. And by social listening, hearing what they have to say to you, you're going to be able to grasp and jump on it quickly. Also, your competition. What are they doing? I mean, I realize, we all like to think of ourselves as having the finger on everything, but it just may be that your competition may have a little more information, have a leg up on you. So you should be monitoring them too. What are they doing? Have they just come up with something brilliant that they're all of a sudden getting all kinds of attention for? And if you aren't paying attention, if that's your competition, you're going to be left out within a week.
mm-hmm. Have
By
you
the time,
seen?
by the time the cash register stops ringing, you're in trouble.
Well said. Well said. Have you seen businesses make uh, that transition effectively from being really self-centered and self-focused to opening up their eyes and ears and doing a better job of listening to the outside world and listening to their customers? Anything you can share about observations on what that process can look like?
Well, without mentioning brands, okay, because that's too easy. Certain brands, if the customer service question, even if it's not rude, and I grant you, we always try to tell our people in the customer service chat, if you're posing a question to a brand, try and be polite, because you attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. You know the story. But you need to approach the brand carefully. And in turn, the brand needs to respond. Just let the customer know that you've seen the tweet, that you've seen the post. You'll get back to them. Maybe, even though I'm not a big fan of driving them immediately to DM, but at least you've responded. I could name and won't quite a few major brands who just don't answer. If it's not convenient for them and it's not part of their narrative, they won't talk to you. And I've seen legitimate questions being posed. I mean, legitimate business problems that are customer service issues. And not every customer is going to be as polite as we'd like them to be. But generally, if we don't go down in the ditch with them and we stay polite and we stay courteous and let them know that they are respected, whether they are or not, that particular person, we'll get a lot farther in solving these problems.
That leads me to the subject of a previous tweet chat that you held, the CustServe topic of, I believe it was about 4 weeks ago, was about the lives of care agents and the management of care agents. What are you seeing and hearing these days regarding the front lines of people providing customer care?
Well, one thing that hasn't changed is that it is stressful. It is stressful. We don't always think of the stress that people go through, where it's one call after another. And your company culture can make the whole thing easier. You know, certain breaks, weekly meetings, so that your agents can discuss what went on. And if something particularly bothered them, get some input from other people who are doing the same thing. Don't have everything trickle down from management. Have people learn from each other. And that's a very effective way to make people feel more satisfied with their work. And bonuses. But, you know, customer service is not the highest paid business for agents. Have bonuses. You know, don't have bonuses based on, I managed to get them off the phone really fast. No, that's not the answer. The answer is, does that customer come back? These are long-term goals, because we can no longer think in the immediate future. Customers that are being made now may become your customers for years to come. If you're holding their hand during the pandemic and you're servicing them, your agents need to know that this is their goal, because that will build their business and that will make their jobs last longer.
And while I'm sure many agents feel some intrinsic motivation just on a human to human level, that can be hard to scale with the workload and the stress. And so some properly managed extrinsic motivation in the form of things like bonuses sounds really important.
People doing it from home now. And if all your agents are around where your business is, why don't you go to the flower market and pick up like small plants? And once a day during a week, or once a week, deliver a plant to one of those people's home. Let them know that they're appreciated, that you want to grow with them. Get it? Plant, grow. But how great would that make them feel? And the agent gets the bonus of making a customer feel good. And once you have all that feel good going and none of that's not our policy, you're going to have win all around: customer, agent, management.
So that is the kind of transformation of employee experience that if it's anything like the transformation of customer experience, is likely to take some time and require behavioral change, lots of little changes in lots of people's behavior, and that hopefully will deliver some quick wins right away in the
They
short
will.
term.
They will. And, one of the things we think about this is a new world and new management and all kinds of new. But the truth is, there's a whole lot of old school still out there. There's a whole lot of brands who don't respond to customers, like I said. There are some brands who do brilliant jobs that follow. I had a customer service issue that started in Mother's Day and just ended. It was insane. It was, as people in customer service know, occasionally when you have an issue with a customer, through no fault of anybody's, it just mushrooms and something falls out of place and something doesn't get delivered again. And it's like the cursed transaction. If everybody keeps their smiles up, it's going to happen. And the customer will be happy in the end. And, maybe they may not be the biggest customer in the end, but what they're going to do is they're going to tell people. And word of mouth is still, even though we wear masks, word of mouth happens on social media as well as chats and as well as via phone and text. So spread the word. Your brand is a winner.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic, Marsha. Well, I so appreciate your sharing these insights from all the conversations that have been having. You're such an excellent conversation convener there on Twitter.
Convener.
That feels like an appropriate with a capital C. Yes. So
look that up. Yeah.
But your Twitter handle is Marsha Collier.
At Marsha Collier, MarshCollier.
Yes, and you do the Cust Serve, CUSTSERV tweet
Well
chat
done.
every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. PST. But those conversations are viewable at any time on Twitter, in particular, by searching for the hashtag and Q1.
And how do you do that,
first
Marshall?
question.
Tell people don't know how.
We were just talking about that before the show today. I was so pleased. I mean, I've been using Twitter, for a living, more or less, for well more than a long time. Yes, and yet I've just felt so pleased with myself for realizing how simple it was to access the archives of a tweet chat by looking for your hashtag #CustServe and then Q1 for question number 1, and then sorting the search results by latest. And I can see real clearly this week's first question, and then next week's or the prior week's first question, and then the week before that's first question. And then if I replace the Q1 with Q2, I can see the second question. And if I replace the Q with an A, then I get to see people's answers to question number 1, question number 2. So simple to scroll back and see all the rich conversation going on there.
So we need a little graphic to be over your shoulder that reads Marshall's tip of the day.
Yes. Yeah. And lest you think that simple things sometimes are obvious. The
simple things are the things that a lot of people don't know. Everybody dives deep into the complex, where it's the simple things that people forget.
Oh, it's so true. So true. Marsha, I want to ask you one last question that I didn't prepare you for ahead of time. But I want to encourage everyone to follow you on Twitter, to check out your radio show, to check out the CustServe tweet chat. But I wonder if there's another person out there, if you could help expand our horizons even further. You're such a great people connector. Is there another person on social media that you would recommend our readers or our viewers check out that perhaps we're not familiar with?
Are we talking about customer service or just in general?
Oh, I'd be interested in either, but customer service in particular.
Customer service, I think Bill Queasing, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but Bill is brilliant. Bill is in the hospitality industry in San Diego, California. He comes to our Twitter chats, and he always has great things to add into. He really
Oh,
does.
oh, that's
And the
fantastic.
other one for just general amusing stuff, our old pal, been around with us, Chris Brogan, is still on Twitter and he's still tweeting away. Always an amusing account. And, follow some dog accounts too, because they can be really good.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, Chris Brogan, yeah, is a great suggestion. Chris does such a good combination of funny and interesting and smart and really well informed. And but what a dynamic guy he is. I gotta have.
Chris and I were talking about, and I think this applies to anybody seeing this video who's been around for a while. Reach back into your memory. The things that you may have believed years ago have not totally changed, but they've just morphed. And you've got information that you can share that to you is old hat, but to people today, it's good, big information.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. All right, let's wrap on that. Folks, thank you so much for joining us for another Sprinklr Coffee Club. Marsha Collier was our guest today, and Marsha is a repeat guest because she's so charming and generous that she came back again. So go check the archives if you'd like to see the previous conversation with Marsha.
And my podcast is #TechRadio. It's usually pinned. It's a two-parter, so there's two segments of about 28 minutes apiece. And love to have you listen. We talk about news and views of technology. Less views, more news. Well, or a lot of funny stuff too. But
Oh, fantastic.
thank you for having me, Marshall, because you and I have known each other for years. I've been a fan of yours since like forever. And anytime we can share some info or share some ideas, I love doing it.
Likewise, Marsha. Thank you very much. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.